You're listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast, the show that helps you build wealth faster, think outside the box, and break out of the herd. Here's your host, Jim Oliver.
Welcome back, Breakaway Wealth. I'm your host, Jim Oliver, and with me today, Will Henshall. Welcome, Will.
Hey, thanks very much, Jim. Looking forward to talking to you.
I'm looking forward to talking to you. And Will, I read a little bit about you, and I'm fascinated because I'm always fascinated with people that come from an industry where I have no talent. And outside of reading out loud in school, the other thing that I knew I was never going to do is I'm never going to be in the band at school, or my friends had a band. Nobody ever invited me to sing, play. I have no rhythm when it comes to music and all that. So anybody that can do that, I have mad respect for. So
Yeah.
with that, Will, tell everybody just a little bit about you, your background, and what you do.
Sure. Thanks. Yes, I'm an artist, and I'm an inventor, and I'm a men's work leader. These are the three areas of my life. Artists, what you're talking about is I was the founder and the main musician, writer in the UK pop band, London Beat in the 90s. We had 5 big hits, including I've Been Thinking About You, which is now one of the most played songs in the world from the 90s on the radio.
That's
I can't
awesome.
believe I can even say that. Yeah. I've been thinking about you. Anybody who's over 35, whatever's the math now, even if you're younger than that, you'll have heard the damn song in Home Depot sometime like this week.
As long as they're sending the check, right?
Yeah. After I did that, I was in the band for 9 years, quit in 95. There was me, 3 African-American singers, soul singers, who were amazing vocalists. And people say to me sometimes, were you the singer? I'm like, well, I was doing backgrounds, but don't solo my microphone, because these gentlemen were the actual talent. I was the guitarist and the bassist and that stuff. After I did that, I got very interested in recording studio technology, because I'm also a producer and a sort of audio scientist. And me and another guy started a thing called Rocket Network, which was a way to network recording studios over what was then brand new, the internet. And so we proceeded. That was my first real startup. We raised close to 50 million. Paul Allen put in 20, Kleinworth Benson put in a few, and a few other people. We sold that company to Avid, who make Pro Tools and Avid Media Composer. Now, if you're not in the movie or the music space, those won't be familiar names, but it's like the Microsoft of that industry. And we sold the tools that we made to them, and then they became the underpinning, these tools, of Avid Cloud Collaboration, which is the main system that is used in movies and professional audio all over the world today. Now, these are my 2 areas. I'll come to the third area in a minute, which is talking about men's work. But to be successful as an artist and to be successful as an inventor, you got to have one thing. You got to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You got to have your head screwed on. You got to be thinking as an entrepreneur. You can't be like, Leonardo da Vinci in his attic designing stuff, so what? That's not how it works. And when I started the band London Beat, and we had a fantastic manager, a woman called Sandra Turnbull, and she had been a manager of the Eurythmics at the band. They were one of the biggest bands in the world in the 80s.
Yeah, I remember.
And we knew her, we knew the Eurythmics, we'd worked with them as musicians. And she had some great input on the direction and the art and what we were doing in the band. Conversely, I found myself with the equivalent amount of input back on the business side of things. So it was a very interesting relationship, and it taught me a ton about how do you get really household name successful. Now, a lot of success in the music business is being the right time, the right place with the right song, knowing the right people, making sure you grease the right wheels, making sure you're doing an opening show in the right city when the radio's on. There's a ton of stuff you got to get right.
Yeah.
But you always have to think entrepreneurially. at the time it wasn't well known, but now it's kind of better known that the merchandise on a tour is what really floats the tour. It's the t-shirts, it's the hats, it's these other things. And artists today, with their direct link, we had a fan club where we had people's addresses that we collected, and that was a value because we used to send people flyers and say the new album's out, we're in your city doing a
Wow.
meet and greet. But now with the net, oh boy, as an artist, you got a lot of things you can do. You know, you can charge people to do a super concert in someone's, living room,
Yeah.
or you could play a wedding and they'll pay you $100,000 to play a wedding,
Right.
if they're super fans of what you do. So thinking entrepreneurially was it. Now as an inventor, I come from a long line of British inventors. I'm a Brit, as you can tell from the accent.
Yep.
But I've been living in the USA for 40 years, so
Nice.
proud citizen, and I love this country. And the entrepreneurial spirit of a can-do culture here, by the way, by here I'm talking about in the USA, was one of the main reasons that brought me here, because in the UK still the culture is still a little bit like, what do you want to do that for? Get a
Right.
job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Work in the factory like your dad did.
Right.
Who do you think you are, right? And when I
Yeah.
came to the USA in the 80s, I was really like, oh, can-do culture. Yeah, I can do this, So I started the Rocket Network audio and video networking business in San Francisco, and learned a ton about Silicon Valley and how to raise money and how to invest wisely in the right technology at the right time. Ultimately exited that, as I said, in 2003, and then went on to do a few other things in my life, including what I'm doing now, which is what I want to talk to you about in a minute, which is Metal Men, which is a men's group that has a lot of overlap with what you talk about on your podcast. Before I did that, I had another business which is still going strong, which is called Focus at Will. Focus at Will is a music service, and it's a special and unique music service for people who are working who have ADD or ADHD, same thing.
Oh,
And so,
I'm in.
Yeah. Hey, it's all the fun people, in case you hadn't noticed.
Writing that down. Focus at will.
I went to see a guy called Dr. Ned Edward Hallowell, who's the leading ADHD clinician. He's a psychiatrist. He's based in Boston. And I was just starting this idea for a business. And I said, I've discovered that if you play certain types of music to certain types of people, it can really help them focus and concentrate. And I said, and I think I might be ADHD myself. And he literally nearly fell off his chair laughing. He said, welcome to the club. He said, all the fun people are.
I love that.
So, yeah, that led me to today. And so this idea of what is an entrepreneur drives a lot of my thinking. Did you see the research came out about 6 months ago about this? New kids here in the US, kids coming through school, what do they want to do? They used to be astronauts, models, rock guitarists, right? Guess what? 50% want to be influencers.
Wow.
Now, that's fascinating, because if you're an influencer, you are self-employed.
You are, yeah.
You're self-employed. You do not have a job. You don't have to clock in. You don't have to put the uniform on to sell those burgers. No. You're an influencer, and it's possible to make a reasonable living or a pretty good side hustle being a micro niche influencer.
I love
it.
that.
It is so intriguing, and you got to be, to be able to do that, you got to understand promotion, self-promotion, finding a niche, being able to present on screen, being nimble on foot, pivoting, all of the things which are critical. So I'm actually really encouraged about a new generation of kids coming through who are thinking that way. That is really, really positive in my view.
You know what I love about, actually, I was just having this conversation with somebody in their 20s the other day, and she was a little bit defensive about like what somebody my age might think. I'm 59, that she about. I said, no. Here's just one thing on money. When I was a kid, I was taught, go to school, work really hard, get good grades, get a job, work for 20, 30, 40 years in that job, and then they'll
Yeah.
have a retirement fund for you. And then you're going to take that nest egg and hope that you don't run out of money before you die. So don't live too long, don't take care of yourself, whatever, so
Yeah.
that you don't run out of money. And then that's your life. That's it. There,
Yeah.
boom, boom. And what I learned was that was complete BS,
Yeah.
and that these kids in their 20s and 30s, and their kids to me, is they don't buy into that. They buy into
Mhm.
cash flow, into reoccurring revenue,
Yeah.
owning, being an influencer. I mean, you got to
Mhm.
sell if you're an influencer, right? You got to sell yourself. You got to sell your idea. You got to do something.
Right.
And I love that attitude of the younger generation. And
Yeah.
uh, you know, tying that to business or to music a little bit is, it's, I always love innovation in music. Like I said, I have no talent, I know nothing about music, but I love when somebody tries something different, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
is when you just fall in line, then, like you said, if your dad was a steel worker, you're going to be a steel worker. And
Right.
I've been to Ireland, I've been to Scotland, I've been to England. I think you're right. It's a little bit more like that. Hey, where are you from? Oh yeah, 3 miles that way. Like,
Right.
and here
Right.
it's like I'm from LA. I'm living in
Yeah.
Florida. Like you're
Right.
from the UK.
Yeah.
Uh, it's like it's different, and you got to be able
Yeah.
to just say. So I love the younger generation. I'm glad you pointed
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah. And also in terms of wealth creation and wealth management and the way they think of it. I've got some friends who are in their mid late 30s
Mhm.
who have really done well in a combination of real estate, crypto, smart investments, one restaurants, another guy put together a fund which he started with, I don't know, 25K that he rustled up himself to invest in tiny niche manufacturing businesses,
Wow.
lots of them. And so he now has a portfolio of many of these who make chairs for RV parks. Um, Company who make a little widget that's a critical widget on the new Corvette.
Yeah. Right.
That's all they do. That's what they make. There's
Yeah.
6 guys in the company,
Yeah.
and the way to be thinking laterally about how to then balance and create a portfolio which is really diverse, because the secret of wealth creation is diversity in your portfolio, right?
Yep.
One way or another, you get to get all the balance of pieces balanced, right?
Yep.
So um I too, I'm really hopeful, and in here in the metal. So let me talk about Metal Men.
Yeah.
Metal Men
Absolutely. Yeah.
is a group of about 800 guys in the group. There's two sections of the group. There's a platinum group, which is the much more successful guys, and then a main gold group, and we're all entrepreneurial thinking. Metal stands for media, entertainment, technology, arts, and leaders.
Mm.
And that's where we started. We've been going for 20 years. I've been a member myself for 14. I'm a partner in the firm now. I have been for the last 5 years. And we have found there's two rules, really. One main rule: we never talk politics,
Yeah.
ever.
That's
It's a complete third rail we never
good.
touch. And sort of adjacent to that, we don't talk religion either.
Right.
And what that means is that you get to know brothers. Let's imagine you and I become close buddies and we never talk politics.
Yeah.
It ultimately, it actually doesn't matter, because what we care about are the same things. We care about our kids, our family, about being happy. We care about the world we live in. We care about having a nice car. We care about doing the right thing. Most humans, nearly everyone really ultimately wants to do the right thing, not be unkind to people, whatever. And we have this sort of set of friendship guidelines, which means that the guys in the group get to know each other well. And because we're entrepreneurial, and we come from many different backgrounds, we got guys who are in space, robotics, medicine, finance, wealth creation, tax, just lots of different fields, and including some really well-known faces. Chris Voss wrote the book Never Split the Difference. He's a
Yeah.
metal guy,
Love that book.
right? Nolan Bushnell, who literally invented the video game with accompanying Atari back in the day. He's a
Wow.
regular
Yeah.
We see him all the time. Ton of other guys who are super renowned, and we have found that successful men, and this is true of women as well, or anybody, there are principles that have guided us that we're not really aware of until you think about them. And so what I'm talking about is the core set of principles that Metal Men. So Metal Men is a social group. It's like an edgier version of TED for successful guys. We have every Saturday morning, we have a show, which is run by Ken Rakowski, my partner in crime here. He's a phenomenal host, and he runs this TED style. We do 3 guest speakers every Saturday. We get together 3 times a year in person. And it's a place where you meet guys that you'd never normally meet that you become really close to.
Yeah.
You know how that works. So what we do is we work around this thing. I say this thing. What happened was this. Imagine you and I are talking a couple of years ago, and we start realizing that we've both been successful. And what do we have in common? Just general principles to get us to be successful, right? We come from super different worlds, and you will find that successful, I'm talking about men because we're a men's group. By the way, we're a men's group because men are better men. In the rest of the world, we're better fathers, husbands, cousins, business partners when we're in regular company with other kind and heart-centered men from different parts of the world.
Iron sharpens iron. Yep, I got it.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yep.
You got it. So what happened was we did a research project with 450 of our guys. And we said, what do we have in common? General principles. What do we have in common? Apart from some of us are better looking than others, right? Anyway. So we discovered there are 8 principles, and perhaps I can just talk about each one and talk to you about it. The first one is we're all curious. We're curious.
What's the show everybody loves? He's the soccer coach. It's on Apple. Ted Lasso.
You're talking.
Ted Lasso. He says it's better to be curious than something, and he's playing darts. And he said, like, if you would have asked me, hey Ted, you ever played darts before?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just when you said curious, that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Curious. And so, if you and I were sitting on a plane next to each other, there's a good chance that we've already had a quick look through the flight magazine just in case there's something that's interesting in there. And then I'll be like, hey, nice to meet you, Jim. I'm curious. Where are you going? What are you doing? Right? That's how it works. So the next principle is that we're creative. It's creativity. And that, as an entrepreneur, is where this is where it gets interesting, because we're on the plane. I'm looking at the flight magazine. I see an article about something, apples being grown in some place you can't grow apples. I don't know, I'm making it up. I'd be like, oh, that's really interesting. And now I'm thinking about, if they can grow apples there, maybe they can grow apples in the desert in Dubai. And how are they doing that? And now I'm using my curiosity and my creativity to think about, it sounds to me like there's an opportunity, right? And the third principle we have is resilience, which is knowing when to hold them, when to fold them, right? It's knowing about when is the right, is should I be keeping going? And you've got to, that's a much more difficult thing to answer than it might seem, right? Always. You got to think about that, but having the resilience to keep going in the face of adversity. And then number 4 is integrity. In business, when you get over, 40, you become known for your word. If I say, Jim, I'm going to do this deal, we'll make it happen. I'll get we'll get this papered. I'll get it returned to you by Friday. We'll get this funded on, within 28 days.
Yeah.
Right. That's your word. And when you know someone for a while, I just did a deal with someone last week where we transferred quite a large amount of sums for a separate business, not a metal thing. And it was literally on a virtual handshake over the phone. And we were like, we'll paper it later. No problem.
The diamond business, there's no contracts. It's all handshake. And if you screw me, you're out, right? So nobody screws anybody because everybody does what they say they're going to do. That's the only way that you can operate in that business.
That's so fascinating. I had never heard that. That is exactly integrity, you know. And that's your word with yourself. It's your word with your guys around you. It's not lying to kids about stuff, you know. Is Father Christmas real? Well, if they're like 7, you can talk to them a little bit about why that's a really fascinating idea and where it came from, and the story of how Santa's outfit is red because of Coca-Cola in the day. You know, it's just big, right? It's this whole story. And they're like, oh, wow. Next one is brotherhood. You got to have good men around you as a man, and women listening to this, you got to have good sisters around you. You got to have people that you trust that are not your family. You may be lucky to have an actual physical brother who's a badass. That's great. But most of us, you know, my dad gives terrible advice for all kinds of things. Just saying.
I get it.
Right? Then we got financial literacy, and this is where the crossover with your podcast really comes in. And it is surprising how many successful men have been lucky. You've just been lucky one time. And if you're in your late 20s and you step on a beautiful thing and it just grows into this amazing tool, and now that you're sitting on 50 mil, 100 mil, and there are guys that I know that have done this. And what you don't realize is, dude, you are just lucky. You're in the right place at the right time. And if you're careful and you're intelligent, you got like guys like you around, Jim, you'll be okay. But a lot of guys who do that, Sam's in the music business all the time. Football and professional athletes. What happened to the 200 million? Well, a few Ferraris later.
The guy ran off with it. He's somewhere in Central America.
Boom. And financial integrity, it doesn't mean you got to be a whiz on the, with stocks or a crypto bro that is, constantly hustling to make a margin on something. It just means you got to understand the value of a good or a service and a margin on that good and service, what your OPEX is. I mean, it's not difficult, but it's surprising how many successful men have really not got a handle on that. And then you just learn those lessons the hard way. Right. That's the thing. The next, which is the 6th principle, is about career development. It's about always learning. It's about having a mentor, having a coach. It's about, if you're a physician, always learning about the latest tech in the operating theater, in the operating room, or it's always about making sure that you're up to speed with big changes. I mean, if you're a lawyer today, or you're a financial, a CPA, AI is going to eat your lunch, no brainer, within the next 5 years? 5 years, If you are a paralegal today, stop it. Don't do that. It's like you have a skill like you knew how to stitch the saddles on horses in the late 1800s, right? We make the best saddles in the Midwest for the horses. And you're like, dude, 25 years from now, there's no horses.
Start making brakes for cars.
Right. Yeah, right. Start sewing headrests for Porsches. Right?
Exactly.
And of course, that's what a lot of people did. So career development is a really part of the success of what we do. And then the last one is, in many, many ways, again, this completely maps to what you do in this podcast. Work-life balance, health and wellness. How do we as men, and again, I just want to underline, if someone's just joined this podcast, I'm talking about men because I run a men's group. And how do we as men, we have usually the mantle of responsibility for keeping the wheels on the family, for running the business. If you're a boss, you've got things you can never talk about, to your staff. You can be unpopular with your teenage kids, but you know that if you don't lay down the law now, they are just not going to survive whatever it is that they're going through.
Yeah.
And so at the moment, I don't know, you've got screen time, which is getting increasingly, it's an accelerating rate of change. Every time you log onto Google, you're like, what?
Yeah.
Right? You got to keep up, and it's exhausting. And at the same time, you got to slow down for real time, for just life with your bros. I mean, if I was with you in Naples today, I'd be like, let's leave the phones at home.
Yeah. Just go to
Let's
the beach,
go
watch the
down
sunset,
and have a walk around.
have a beer. Yeah. Something.
Yeah.
Right. Or
Yeah.
a Coke,
Right.
whatever. If you don't drink,
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so we live in this time of, you really have to have a conscious understanding and management of your work time, your work-life balance, because if you just work 18 hours a day nonstop, you'll burn out and it won't work, and you won't be happy, and the people around you won't be happy.
Yeah.
So, but when you're starting a business in the early days, as a founder, absolutely, you're going to be doing 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
If you're not, you're lucky if it works.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So,
back to your thing, there's a lot of lucky people that have been successful, but the only way that you can ensure success is persistence, like you said. But it's also being bold and being able to. And again, I've never written a song in my life, but I would think that you write it. It's not very often you write out the song word for word and you go, boom, there it is. Like I would think you sing it, because I always think, because I'm really fascinated by music, and I've been fascinated by people that can rhyme, like in rap, because I've never how the hell did you come up with that? It's not even a word, but it's really cool that you came up with that. But I can't imagine that Eminem or somebody like that just writes it out and goes, there it is. Now I've heard of people saying, oh, they wrote Stairway to Heaven in 15 minutes or something. I'm like, okay, maybe, but you would know more about that. But that's kind of how business is I write out a vision. I mean, I've got, I'm a little bit old school. I got the bullet journal, and, I write shit out, and then I rewrite it, and then I rewrite it, and I rewrite it. And I go, you know what? That sounds pretty good. But you know what? To your other point, now I write it out, I send it through AI, and I say, how do you make that better? So,
I got the same thing. Yeah. I can't even read my writing from yesterday. I have no idea what that says.
Well, I'm super ADHD, so I got to go back through the 8 things, because I only have 7. Okay, so and I think I missed somewhere in the early. So I have curious, which I love that. And then
creativity.
Creativity? See, I told you I wasn't creative. That one went right in one ear and out the other.
Oh yeah. Yeah, curiosity,
resilience, integrity, brotherhood, financial literacy, career development, work-life balance, wealth and health. See, people think sometimes I'm not listening to the guest. I'm writing it down. Okay, I've learned in my 59 years, I write shit down, and then I go back and I go, that's really cool. But you said something about being a men's group. So we have a friend of our show. She's the top franchise consultant in the country. Her name is Kim Daly. She's a coach. She's got the Daily Show and all this other stuff. She's in a women's group. They're only women. Some of them are billionaires, like your guys too, I'm sure. And and she's like, it's a women's group. And I said, how many women are in there? She goes, it's all badass women. And I said, as a single guy, can I join that group?
Right.
She said, no. No, obviously my intentions are, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I hear you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think having a group of guys that you can be, and by the way, women, you want us to have that, right? You want us to learn how to be better men from men that are better men. And I want my wife someday that would be in a group that are women that want to be better women, So I love that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's actually the way it's supposed to be.
About 20% of our new members come from referrals from women whose husbands are in the group already, who
Yeah,
tell their girlfriends, my husband's in this amazing group of guys. You should get your husband, boyfriend to join.
awesome. You know what? There
I
you go.
mean,
Proof's in the pudding, right?
right, right. Every time it happens, it's fantastic. While I was looking around, I'll just pull this up.
Yeah,
Sounds like late night advertorial TV here.
yeah.
So this is the book.
Oh,
We have a book called Masculine Intelligence,
yeah.
and it is not available. Consciously is not available. It is available on our website, metal.men. Metal.men's
Metal.
the website, and you can find this there.
Uh,
But this is not currently available on Amazon. Um,
we'll put all that in
the
the show notes too.
You got it.
So
You
okay,
got it.
well, you know what? I like you. I think you again, I love people that have different backgrounds than me, but I mean, and ultimately we're all have to be creative and curious and resilient and all those things to be an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Regardless if I have a trash business and people go, well, tell me about what's creative about the trash business. Well, you
Right.
can be very creative actually, but
Yeah.
you know, it's a
Yeah.
simple thing, right?
Yeah.
And people more think Tony Soprano, you know, and I'm like,
Right.
don't
Right.
I'm not even Italian. No, so
Yeah.
but um I got two questions for you as we wrap up. And well, first before I ask you that, okay, metal.men, that's
That's it.
that's the site. I love
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And in any other sites are like Instagram, YouTube, is it all on the
Yeah, you can
website? You can
find
get there.
us Metal Up Men. You can find us on all the socials. We have stuff out
Perfect.
regularly. But if you're listening to this and you want to come and join us, just find out more about us at Metal.men. We
Perfect.
are a hybrid online and in person group. We got guys from all over the US, Canada, uh, a few fellas in Central and South America, Europe, and Middle East. And so it's
Awesome.
a really interesting group. It's in English. We get together 3 times a year here in the US, of course.
I'm
Um,
uh I'm uh I'm sending this to a business partner of mine because he was just talking about being in a group, and we are
right,
in a mastermind with family mastermind, which is a lot of real estate investors,
right,
coaches,
right,
and
right,
every time I go to it, I'm like I come home and I'm like better from
right,
just sharing or just sitting and talking like to somebody
right,
like you.
right.
So I'm a huge fan of iron sharpens iron, right? All right, so they always tell me 20 to 22, 25 minutes, and we're at 30.
Okay.
So
Well, we've overloaded a little bit. I
well,
want to say
hopefully
one
people
last
are
thing
still
about.
listening. If you're not
It's like
listening,
James Brown.
get back
James
on.
Brown, I want to say one more thing right here.
Yeah.
So, the guys come into the group when they're looking for one of three things.
Okay.
They're looking for help with the business. They're
Yep.
looking for help raising money. They're looking for help hiring the right person. They're looking for general advice with their career.
Yep.
Guys come in for as I said, we're like an edgy version of TED. So they come in for content,
Yep.
keeping up. The first place we heard about Bitcoin was here in Metal. The first time we heard about AI was here in Metal. The first time we heard about this pandemic was here in Metal. So we are looking over into the future all the time. And
Yeah.
then the third reason guys come in is often something they discover later, and that's brotherhood.
Love it. Yeah.
Meeting guys, ages are sort of 40 plus. Um, and so it's guys that have, we're not kids. And
Yep.
we got some guys in their 80s who are absolute badasses. Nolan Bushnell, he's like 83 or something.
I love
Still
guys like
dangerous. Yeah.
that. I'll tell you what, you
Yeah.
can learn so much from my mentor, R. Nelson Nash, who died when he was 88. I think I met him when he was like 75 or something,
Right.
and changed my life. I mean, changed my
Right.
life.
Yeah.
And you know, to think that he was 75 is
Right.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I always think this is a Dan Sullivan thing that I've stolen or modeled is my future is always bigger than my past. So I believe
Right.
even when I'm 90 years old, and if I have
Right.
1 month to live, who knows what I'm going to do for that month? I might do something that's bigger than everything that I've ever done. You know,
Right.
so I love that.
Right.
All right, I got two questions for you, Will, as we wrap up. Is one, what's the best advice anybody's ever given you?
That's a really
It's a big question.
interesting
Yeah,
question.
it could just be some great advice.
No, it's a good one. Um, I wish I'd had this advice when I was in my 20s.
There you go.
And it is be careful you don't marry the wrong woman.
Yeah, well, why don't you give me that? I've needed that advice twice.
I've needed that advice 4 times.
Okay. All right. You got me beat.
But I'm serious. You don't, you don't, certainly our generation when we grew up, we were never told, here's what's going to happen. If you marry a mean, beautiful girl, your kids are likely to be like a combination of your worst traits and mean and good looking. So you just be aware. If you marry a kind woman, your kids are intelligent. Your kids are likely to become intelligent, right? Just
That's great.
just
Great
that's
advice. I'm gonna
biology.
take that advice even at 59.
So that's the best advice.
All right, I got another question for you. If God came down from heaven and only allowed you to retain the knowledge that you've received from one book, what would that book be?
That is easy.
Okay, I like it.
You just mentioned one of my heroes, Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
10x is easier than 2x. It is
Changed my
the
life.
Bible.
Yes.
Yeah, it should be required reading in high school. It is amazing. And he just talks about mindset and how 10xing something is oddly easier than 2x. And it is true in all aspects of your life.
Everything. By the way,
Yeah.
everything, because if you said, I could lose 5 pounds, it's hard to get excited about that. So
Right.
it's pretty linear what you do to lose 5 pounds. But if you
Right.
said, hey, I want to get down to 8% body fat at 59 years old, I want to have abs by the time I'm 60, and I want to put on 10 pounds of muscle,
Yeah.
which would be more like a 10x goal.
Right.
Guess what? Your life's going to change.
Oh yeah.
You're at 4:30 in the morning, you're going to get up and you're going to work out. You're going to make sure if you look over here, I've got Huel, which is 400 calories, 40 grams of protein. I got to eat 200 grams of protein a day. Like I changed my whole life. It wasn't, I can lose 5 pounds. I'd feel better.
Sure.
I love that.
No, that is so true.
Dan,
I met.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, tell me about
when I met Dan Sullivan for the first time.
Yeah.
I just got Folks at Will going. I met him through Folks at Will and through Peter Diamandis, who was an investor in Folks
abundance.
Yep. And Peter said, Will, Dan's just had at the age of 79 or whatever he was when I met him, he said, Dan's just been diagnosed with ADHD. And I was like, so have I.
Yeah. Well, you're familiar with the Colby then, right, Will? The Colby?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a 10 quick start. I'm
okay.
And I just had somebody on, he mentioned Colby, and I said, hey, while we were talking, I had to look up my Colby because I know I'm a 10 quick start, but I'm such a quick start, I can't remember. I know they're really low, but I don't remember the numbers for everything else. And it's 2 and 3, right? So I don't do anything well other than the vision part. And and so, Dan is one of the most intelligent people that I've ever met in my life.
Yep.
And everything that he puts out, I consume. Mm-hmm. And I used to hate going to Chicago because I hate to get on an airplane, spend the day, all of that stuff. But, a friend of mine up in Canada is in his, where, it used to be he did the meetings, right? And then now he's got other coaches. Right. I mean, just like anybody else, he's grown his business.
Yeah.
But the content and the systems, it's not just something that he made up. It's something that's proven over thousands of people. Yeah. And whether it's unique ability, whether it's life extender, which, we're talking about age and people being in their 80s and stuff. I mean, I still think that's such an incredible little exercise that'll take you 10 minutes or whatever it is. And, who, not how, all of these strategy circle. In my drawer right there, I have the big strategy, and not that I infringed his copywriting. Is I have a pad of strategy circles, right? Yeah. Because I can't get, and I would order and I'd make them the same size. I want them to be big, and the impact filter, all of those tools, right? When you talk about being curious, creative, resilient, part of that is having a track to run on too, right?
Yeah.
Is the way
Yeah.
that you have. I love that you talked about wealth and health, because
Hmm.
I tell you what's really funny is once you have enough money that you know you're never going to run out, that how interested in your health you become. Because it's like, wait a minute, you mean I could live forever and I still wouldn't run out of money? Well, then I want to live forever.
Right.
And I have stolen Dan's thing too. I say 59. I say, you know what I call 59? And they go, no, what? I say halfway.
Yeah.
And, he always says that, like I'm
Yeah.
70, I'm
Yeah.
halfway. Do I think I'm going to live to
Yeah.
144? No, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
I love this Metal Men concept. I love what you guys are doing. I love the masculine intelligence thing. If I can go on and order the book on your website, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. That'd be
I would
great.
encourage everybody to, if you're a woman listening to this, get your boyfriend or your husband to
Yeah.
check this out.
Send your guys over.
Yeah. And well, I think I could, like, just people like you that have done it. It's not like something, again, that you're making up in your head.
Right.
I always tell people that with infinite banking is they say, hey, have you seen this video? And I go, man, those guys are so good at video, but they've done infinite banking for like a day and a half. They have no
Right.
idea, what actually happens when you're building a business or building a banking system like infinite banking. But,
Yeah.
and I'll end this with this and let you comment on it, is if you and I were going to go climb Mount Everest tomorrow, like,
Right.
it's a no-brainer that we're going to have the best jackets, the best pants, the best boots, the best goggles, the best gloves. But the one thing that I'm going to make sure that we're going to have the best on the earth is the best Sherpa,
Oh yeah.
right? I want the guy that's been up and down that mountain more times safely than anyone else, right?
Yeah.
I don't want the guy that's 27 and he just became, hey, it's his first time as a Sherpa. I want the guy
Yeah.
that's 80 years old and is like, yeah, I can get up and down that mountain. Damn,
Yeah.
I bet you can. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So talk about that real quick in your experience of having that right. And you said career development number, I guess that's 7, is
Yep.
learning, which I love that, read every day, but coach and mentor. Talk about that Sherpa and where that fits into Metal Men.
Well, I would ask another question of the Sherpa.
Yeah,
And a
absolutely.
good example of this, I got my eyes cataract surgery just a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And one of the metal men, Dr. Warren Stout, is he is the chief UCLA professor who teaches eye surgery. He's an eye surgeon. That's what he does. He teaches eye surgeons, and I know him. So I said to him, okay, what do I ask an eye surgeon?
Yeah.
Because I want the best Sherpa, right? Because
Yep.
you really don't want to save money on an eye surgeon.
No.
And he said, you want to ask how many operations they've done, and this question, which is related to complications in the surgery. He said, how ask them how many they've done, not how many have they done, but how many have they done without this complication.
Right. Love that.
And so with the Sherpa, I'd be like, so you've been up and down this mountain, a bunch of times. How many times have you had problems?
Yeah.
How many dead people did you leave up there, right?
Yeah. How many bodies have you left? Yeah. Exactly.
There's 2 parts of the question.
Yeah.
Yep. How many times have you done this, and how many times have you done this with no problems?
I'm probably going to steal that, Will. So when I say probably, I mean I am. But I'm going to call it model. I'm going to model it, but it's really I'm going to steal that. But what's funny about that, when you think of the eye surgeon, I happen to have a friend who's one of the best eye surgeons in the world. His name is Vance Thompson. He's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. But people have flown all over the world to have this guy do their eye surgery.
Absolutely.
And he has 2 vineyards in Napa Valley, but this guy and everybody that I talk to down in Florida, they know who he is in South Dakota, right? And so, when I did my eye surgery, I was like, I could I could be in South Dakota probably around August next year. I could be there because my blood is way too thin for winter up there. I'm like an iguana that I would just fall out of the car.
Yeah. Well, I live in Los Angeles and I've been here a long time. So when it drops below about 62, we're like, good God, it's freezing.
I had a hoodie on today. We're having a cold spell here in Florida, and normally the mornings at like 5 a.m. is like 62, 64, like you said. And I got a jacket on, right?
Oh yeah.
This morning, I got the beanie, I got the jacket, and I drive and you'll like this because you're basically a Californian now. Is I drive, I have 2 cars. I got the M5 I was telling you, or we weren't talking about that, but I got an M5, which I think is like the best just car driving. And then I have a convertible Bronco. Oh, and the M5 I sold because I have a new one coming in January, the 2025. Right. And so I have to drive the Bronco with no top on. Oh, and it's 49 degrees. And I'm thinking, this is too, and I would be in shorts if I were in South Dakota in 49.
Oh, yeah.
Because your body gets used to it. But that's back to the wealth and health and whatever. Oh, yeah. My granddaughter who lives with me, she said, Papa, why do you need 2 cars? I said, I don't need 2 cars. I want 2 cars. I got to have a car to state, Will. So, I go with the Bronco, and I think if they're okay with the Bronco, then they can see the BMW after 3 dates. No, just kidding.
Is the Bronco a classic or is it one of the newer ones?
It's one of the new ones. But I wish when I was a kid in Los Angeles, where I grew up, I wanted that old Bronco. That was the ultimate going to the beach. That was the car, right? And if I knew somebody that would trick it out, I probably would have bought the classic one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a classic car guy myself. And these days I've been into hot rod Jeeps. Same thing, the big Broncos with the the big block Ford, and just like they're wider than a Hummer. They're enormous. And so I ended up with I have some my current favorite is a CJ3A, which is a 1952 hot rod with a small block it's way
well. See, that's what people don't understand about that aren't from California or don't live in California is my Bronco is. They took a Bronco, they tore it apart, they put 37-inch tires on it, big 22 or 20 whatever inch rims. I mean, the bumpers aren't the same. Nothing's the same. The hood's not the same. Everything, right, is all redone. The interior is like baseball glove leather. And they're like,
nice.
Well, how much did all that cost to do all that? And I said, no, I bought it this way. I'm not patient. I'm ADHD, right? I'm a 10 quick start. Oh, you have one for sale? Can you have it here in 2 hours? Right. And the guy said, yes. If you wire me the money, I can have it there in 2 hours. And I said, okay. And I didn't even negotiate. I didn't care. It was like, can you get it here in 2 hours? That was the negotiation.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. So, all right. I know we could probably talk all day. All right. So, Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And audience, hopefully you've hung with us because there's a lot of great information. Go to metal.men to learn more about Will and his organization and see if it's right for you. If you're not curious, then don't go to number 2 because you failed. All right, we're going to end this the way we do it all shows with the incredible words of Earl Nightingale and The Strangest Secret. Take it away, Earl.
Here's the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. Now let me say that again. We become what we think about.
Thanks for listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to this show wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If you want to start increasing your wealth building ability right now, go to community.createtailwind.com to join our free online community and get access to free, in-depth training designed to help you build real, lasting wealth. See you next week.